My daughter did not just ban me from her wedding, she erased me. For 3 years, Rowan pretended I did not exist. But the morning my hotel chain reached a valuation of $580 million, she finally remembered my number. Her message arrived with the same cold precision she used the night before her vows. Mom, come to the house at 7. We need to talk. The story you are about to hear is a work of fiction created by the Her Tears channel team, based on real-life situations to convey lessons about family, emotions, and human values. All characters and events are illustrative. She thought I would show up grateful. She thought I would tremble at the chance to be let back in, but as I stepped into her home in Albuquerque with a sealed folder tucked beneath my arm, I was not the woman she once dismissed. Rowan stood in the entryway, her smile stretched tight. "Mom," she said softly, like she was practicing empathy in front of a mirror. Jace hovered behind her, hands in his pockets, wearing the confidence of a man who believed he could outmaneuver a woman twice his age. "Thank you for coming," Rowan continued. "We want to rebuild the relationship." I didn't answer. I simply walked further inside, feeling the familiar ache of a house I had never truly been welcome in. I set the folder on the table, and as I did, something caught my eye. A framed photograph Rowan in her wedding dress. Jace beside her, the bridal party behind them. The picture had been cropped so tightly that the edge of my shoulder, once beside her, had been removed entirely. Interesting. I thought, even in memories, I was an inconvenience. Rowan followed my gaze and quickly shifted the frame. "A photographer's mistake," she murmured. "Anyway, we hoped we could talk things out. Start fresh." Jace cleared his throat. "It would be good for everyone. Marena, family unity benefits all of us." Their voices blended into the same rehearsed script. The same gentle manipulation. What neither of them knew, what neither of them imagined, was that I already held the truth about their collapsing resort, and the document in my folder would end any performance they planned tonight. I folded my hands calmly in my lap, letting the silence settle over them like dust. 3 years earlier in Santa Fe, the night before Rowan's wedding, my phone buzzed with a single message. No greeting. No explanation, just 2 brutal words. "Do not come." I stared at the screen, convinced it had to be a mistake. I called her immediately. The line rang once, then cut to silence. I tried again, blocked. I tried from the motel office landline, blocked there too. I whispered her name into an empty room, as if saying it softly might loosen whatever knot had tightened in her chest. Rowan had shut every door in a single breath. The next morning, I dressed anyway. Not in anything elaborate, just a pale blue dress I had saved for her big day and a pair of earrings she made in high school. I drove to the chapel and parked along the far edge. Heart pounding, but steady enough to keep moving. Before I reached the entrance, a woman stepped directly into my path. Jace's mother, perfect posture. Polite smile, voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Marena," she said, lowering her tone as if she were handling a situation, not a person. "Rowan does not want any drama today. I only want to watch my daughter walk down the aisle. She does not want you here." She said it without hesitation, as if relaying instructions for seating arrangements. I tried stepping around her, but she shifted just enough to block the way. "Please leave," she added. For Rowan's sake, the words landed with a weight I could not lift. I turned back to my car, hands shaking so badly the keys nearly slipped. As guests arrived, I watched from behind the windshield like a trespasser. My niece texted me a link to the live stream. I hesitated before opening it, afraid of seeing the life I was no longer part of. During the ceremony, the camera swept across the dance floor. The mother-daughter dance began, and a bridesmaid stepped into the place that belonged to me. Rowan laughed. bright and effortless. Her eyes never drifting toward the door where I waited. That night, alone in my room, I made myself a promise. I would never beg for a place in her life again. When I turned 60, I signed the papers for a crumbling roadside lodge on the old Route 66 corridor. The banker looked at me over his glasses with the kind of cautious sympathy people reserve for the elderly making what they think is a mistake. "Mrs. Alder," he said gently, "this is a risky purchase, and you are at a risky age." "I am not buying youth," I told him. "I am buying a chance." He sighed, but stamped the documents. Maybe he thought I would quit after the first week. Maybe he had already pictured the foreclosure sign. Either way, the desert lantern was mine. When I walked through the door for the first time, the lodge groaned like an old animal. Wallpaper peeling, carpet stained, faucets rusted. A real estate agent had warned me that a previous buyer backed out because of plumbing concerns. I learned what that meant on my second night. Close to midnight, a pipe in the utility hall burst with a shriek, spraying ice-cold water straight across my legs. I let out a sound I did not recognize, half laugh, half disbelief, and grabbed every towel I owned. As I shut off the main valve, I muttered, "Well, Rowan, looks like your mother is too old to start over after all." But I was not. I watched YouTube tutorials until my eyes blurred. I learned to reseal pipes, refinish wood, patch sheetrock. A few neighbors wandered over after seeing my porch light on past 2 in the morning. "You fixing this place alone?" one man asked. "For now," I said. He returned the next day with a toolbox and 2 friends. Later, a retired teacher brought fresh paint. A single mother from down the street offered to help fold laundry during the weekends. People who owed me nothing saw something in me my own daughter never had. By the end of the first month, the desert lantern looked less like a ruin and more like a stubborn dream taking shape. My first guests left notes at the front desk. "Warmest welcome we've had in years. Feels like someone actually sees us." Their words carried a kind of tenderness Rowan used to refuse from me. Week by week, people began saying my name in town with familiarity, even affection. Santa Fe's boutique hotel scene was small, competitive, but suddenly, the desert lantern and the woman running it had become worth talking about. The desert lantern filled faster than I expected. Guests returned with friends, and friends returned with stories. Within a year, a woman from Taos approached me in the lobby while I was restocking coffee. "You ever think about expanding north?" she asked. "We could use a place with your heart up there." I laughed softly. "Heart is free. Buildings are not." She handed me a card anyway. "Come see the land. Maybe it will speak to you." It did, and soon. So did a second property in Albuquerque, an old adobe inn with cracked beams and a courtyard full of stubborn juniper. I shaped both places into versions of the life I had always wanted to give people: quiet, intentional, grounded in the culture of New Mexico, rather than polished into something unrecognizable. "We can make this eco-luxury," my manager, Luce, said during a late-night walkthrough. "High comfort, low footprint. That is the goal," I replied. Beauty without erasing where it came from. But it was not beauty that tested me. It was the wildfire. One July afternoon, flames pushed toward my Taos retreat with no warning. Guests panicked. Staff scrambled. I made a single decision. Evacuate everyone to Santa Fe. I told Luce, no charge, no conditions. "We will lose weeks of income," she whispered. "We will gain something worth more." Families arrived exhausted and frightened. I gave them rooms, food, blankets. A volunteer filmed the moment an elderly couple hugged me after finding shelter. By morning, the clip had spread across social media. Investors began calling. Most of them wanted to smooth my properties into something glossy and brandless. One man said, We could turn this chain into a luxury powerhouse if you stop clinging to the local soul of it. I shook my head. If the soul leaves, so do I. Years passed, and Alder Sanctuary grew slowly but steadily Taos, Albuquerque, Santa Fe, then Arizona and Colorado. The chain carried my name with a weight I had earned, not inherited. The morning the valuation reached $580 million, my inbox lit up with journalists, invitations, offers, and then, buried among them, a message I had not seen in 3 years. It was from Rowan. The morning Alder Sanctuary reached a valuation of $580 million. My phone buzzed with a notification I almost ignored. When I saw Rowan's name, my breath caught. Mom, come to the house at 7 in the evening. We need to talk. I read it twice, then a third time, searching for warmth that was not there. 3 years without a single birthday text, a holiday greeting, or a question about my health, and suddenly she wanted to talk. The emotions tangled so fast I could barely separate them. Fear, resentment, longing. The longing hit hardest. But I pushed it down. Hope had betrayed me before. A memory surfaced, one I had tried to bury. Years ago, when Rowan was drowning in student debt, she called late at night. Her voice shook as she said, "Mom, I need help. I am scared." I had already opened my laptop to transfer money when the call cut abruptly. Later, she told me Jace said I refused support and hung up on her. She never asked me for anything again. I never understood why she believed him so quickly. Now I did. I set my phone on the counter, letting the words settle. 7 in the evening. She wanted something. That much was clear. If I walked into her house blind, I would repeat every mistake I had spent years trying to unlearn. I dialed Lucia Penn, my CFO, a woman with a voice sharp enough to cut through noise. She picked up immediately. "Lucia, I need you to run a search," I said. "Rowan and Jace's resort in Albuquerque, public records. Liens, anything you can find." A pause stretched through the line. "Marena, why?" "Because my daughter just invited me over," I replied. "And that has never happened without a reason." Lucia exhaled slowly. I could hear her typing, flipping through databases, reading figures under her breath. Then her voice tightened. "Marena," she said, "something's very wrong." Lucia arrived at my house before noon. A stack of documents tucked under her arm, and a look that told me she wished she were wrong. "I pulled everything," she said, laying the papers across my kitchen table. "Rowan and Jace's resort is not just struggling, Marena, it is hemorrhaging." I scanned the first page. Missed payments, delinquent loans, contractor disputes, entire invoices marked in review for months. Lucia tapped one sheet. "Here, they spent nearly $50,000 labeled as marketing photography. It was a private trip to Aspen, luxury handbags, private dinners, flights, everything hidden behind investor money." My throat tightened. Not with shock, but with a kind of tired recognition. Rowan had chosen Jace's voice over mine for years. Now she was paying the price for believing in someone who never carried the weight he placed on her. Lucia hesitated before sliding over another document. "This part is worse." I lifted it. My own name stared back at me, signed neatly at the bottom of a lender application. "I never signed this." I whispered, "I know. It is forged, sloppy, but enough to slip through preliminary checks. The bank is ready to sue if they cannot recover their losses." The betrayal folded into something sharper, something that removed the last traces of hope I had clung to. Lucia continued carefully. "The lenders want out. They are willing to offload the entire debt for a fraction of what is owed. They are terrified the resort will collapse before they can act." She looked at me, cautious. "You could buy the debt quietly. shield her. Or, you could take control. I closed the folder, the sound crisp and final. She invited me tonight because she believes I will rescue her. She thinks I am still that woman. You are not, Lucia said softly. No, I am not. I straightened, feeling something settle in my chest. Buy it. Lucia blinked. All of it. Every dollar they owe. I said, if they want a meeting, they will meet the truth. Rowan's living room felt exactly as it had 3 years earlier. Polished, curated, arranged for guests she wanted to impress. The difference was that this time, I was not one of them. I set the sealed folder on the coffee table and waited. Rowan clasped her hands together. Mom, we were thinking, maybe it is time for our family to reconnect. Jace nodded, leaning forward with an easy smile. We believe family unity benefits everyone, especially now that you have created something extraordinary. Your success can elevate all of us. Marena, I kept my face neutral. Elevate you how Rowan jumped in quickly. We have ideas. Expansion. Collaborations. We could build a retreat together. A mother-daughter brand. Her voice trembled around the edges. Not with affection, but with urgency. Jace continued the pitch. Our resort is struggling because of the economy. Guests are spending differently. But if you step in as a partner just temporarily, we can stabilize everything. There it was, the real reason. The invitation was nothing more than a plea wrapped in sentiment. I let them speak another minute, offering statistics, projections, phrases they barely understood. Rowan's voice cracked. Mom, please, we are drowning. If you help us now, we can make this right. A tear slid down her cheek, but it was not remorse. It was fear. Fear of losing the life she had built on borrowed money and borrowed certainty. I felt something shift inside me, an ache turning into something steadier. I opened the folder. Rowan froze. Jace's smile slipped. These, I said, sliding the papers across the table, are the debts tied to your resort. Jace snatched the top page. As he read, the color drained from his face. No, this is not possible. I bought the entire debt portfolio this afternoon, I said quietly. Every loan, every lien, every delinquent payment. Rowan let out a broken sound and sank into her chair. Mom, why? Because you banned me from the most important day of your life. I answered. Tonight, I make the most important decision of mine. Jace slammed his fist on the table. Rowan sobbed into her hands, and I stayed completely still. The woman they never thought I would become. Rowan stared at the papers as if they might rearrange themselves into something kinder. Jace kept pacing. Jaw clenched so tightly the vein in his neck pulsed. I folded my hands. Here are the terms. You will vacate the resort within 30 days. I will assume full operational control. Rowan's head snapped up. You cannot just take it. I did not take it, I replied. I purchased what the lenders no longer trusted you to manage. Jace let out a harsh laugh. You think investors will support this? You think the public will side with you after we tell them you wiped out your own daughter's business? I reached into the folder and pulled out a slim envelope. Then you may want to read these first. He snatched the papers, confidence flickering as he skimmed. Lines of messages, dozens of them exposed in black and white. You intercepted her pleas for help, I said. You deleted her messages. You told her I refused every time she reached out. Rowan turned toward him slowly. Jace, what is she talking about? He tried to wave it off. Old conversations, out of context. They were sent from your phone. I said, including the one where you wrote, your mother is dead weight. Let her stay out of our lives. Rowan's face crumpled. You lied to me. He did not answer. He did not need to. Silence filled the room with a truth neither of them wanted to face. Rowan rose from the couch, tears streaking down her cheeks. "Mom, you ruined my life." "No," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I revealed what you built. You handed your trust to a man who used you, and you tried to bury me to keep his approval. I will not carry the cost of that." Jace stepped forward. "You cannot do this. You owe us a chance." "I owe you nothing," I said. I picked up my coat, blocked both their numbers on my phone, and walked toward the door. Rowan's sobs echoed behind me, but they no longer pulled at anything inside me. Outside, the air felt different, lighter, as if something enormous had finally fallen away after decades of shrinking myself to be loved. I stepped into the night with a freedom that did not ask permission. The resort Rowan once called her legacy project felt different the moment I walked through its doors under my own authority. The chandeliers were still too bright, the furniture still too modern, but the air felt lighter. Perhaps because, for the first time, I was not entering as someone excluded. I was entering as someone who chose what stayed and what left. "Are you sure about the name change?" Luce asked. Clipboard tucked under her arm. I nodded. Alderhaven. A place for women starting over. A place for women no one fought for. Within a month, the old signage was gone. In its place, a carved wooden board read Alderhaven for Women, Rebuilding Their Lives. The staff arrived one by one, curious but willing. Some had survived controlling partners. Others had endured family abandonment. They understood the mission without needing a speech. As renovations continued, news broke about the audit. Investigators uncovered forged documents, falsified expense reports, nearly $250,000 in misused investor funds. Creditors froze accounts. Former partners filed lawsuits. Phone calls from reporters came daily. Then came the twist I knew would arrive. Jace fled New Mexico entirely, disappeared across state lines before indictments could reach him. Rowan tried to distance herself publicly, posting a shaky apology video online. "I never knew what he was doing," she insisted. "I am reaching out to my mother privately." But the world had already seen the emails, the bank statements, the forged signature that bore my name. Her plea fell flat, swallowed by her own history. I did not respond. Silence can be gentler than rage, and far more final. One afternoon, as I toured the nearly finished meditation wing, a woman approached me. She wore a staff badge and carried towels folded perfectly in her arms. "My daughter and I left a dangerous situation last year," she said quietly. "Thank you for building a place where we are not broken, just beginning again." Her words settled over me in a way Rowan's never had. Kindness without condition, gratitude without demand. I stepped onto the balcony as dusk colored the sky. Guests talked softly below. Women of every age finding calm in a place built from the ruins of someone else's cruelty. I looked out at all of it. Everything I had built, everything I had survived, and whispered, "You did not return my love, but you taught me where to place it." Revenge had never been about burning her world down. It was about building a world she could no longer touch. If you felt this chapter, tap like, leave a comment, or subscribe for more stories of strength and rebirth.